Hello everyone, welcome to class. This is Mathematics with Teacher Baz, and in this lesson we'll be talking about profit and loss. Profit and loss, which is still under our financial mathematics. Alright, so in our last class we did an introduction to profit and loss where we made some definitions and then we talked about formulas. So for today we are going to start solving problems under profit and loss and then we'll see what to do from there. All right, so let's look at it. Please, if you have not subscribed and liked our videos, please do well to subscribe and also share these amazing lessons to others. So let's see what we have. Number one, a man bought a mobile phone of 12,000 naira and sold it for 9,000 naira. Find his loss percent. A man bought a mobile phone of 12,000 naira and sold it for 9,000 naira. Find his loss percent. Find his loss percent. Alright, so let's see what we have here. Solution. Okay, so let's see. A man bought a mobile phone of 12,000 naira. So remember in our last class we talked about the cost price. We mentioned the cost price, we mentioned the selling price, we mentioned profit, we mentioned loss, and then we mentioned percentage loss, percentage profit. So we did say that we can only get profit when the selling price is bigger than the cost price, and then we can only get loss when the cost price here is bigger than the selling price, right? So that's the first thing we need to do. We must be able to identify the cost price and selling price. We must be able to identify the cost price and the selling price so that we can find the loss or the profit. So a man bought a mobile phone of 12,000 naira, bought a mobile phone of 12,000 naira, okay, and sold it for 9,000 naira. So if you check, bought, that's the cost price. So we have that our cost price is equal to 12,000 naira, right? And then our selling price, our selling price is equal to 9,000 naira, 9,000 naira. So we have to find the loss percent. So before we find loss percent, we need to find the loss. We need to find the loss first before we can now change the loss to percentage loss. Alright, so our loss will be cost price minus selling price. Remember the formulas: cost price minus selling price. So which is equal to, that will be 12,000 naira minus 9,000 naira. Alright, so we end up having 3,000 naira as our percentage, or as our loss, sorry. 3,000 naira will be our loss. So from there we can now find our percentage loss because we are asked to find percentage loss. So percentage loss, the formula is loss all over the cost price times 100%. Remember the cost price is always the original. So that will give us 3,000 all over our cost price is 12,000 naira, then times 100%. So 0.0003 this, then that will give us 12 into 12 1, 12 into 30 that will give us 2, remainder 6, 12 into 65. All right, so our percentage loss will be 25%. Our percentage loss will be 25%. Okay, let's move to number 2. A trader bought a basket for 5,000 naira and sold them for 6,500 naira. Calculate the percentage profit made. Okay. A trader bought a basket for 5,000 naira and sold them for 6,500 naira. Calculate the percentage profit made. Right. But so we can see our cost price to be 5,000 naira, and then our selling price to be what? To be 6,500 naira. Alright, so calculate the percentage profit made. So we need to find profit first. So profit equal to Selling price, always put your formula first. Selling price minus the cost price, which will be equal to, that will give us 6,500 minus 5,000, and then our profit will be 1,500 naira. So we can get our percentage profit from there. So our percentage profit will be profit all over the cost price times 100%, all right, times 100%. So that will give us, our profit will be 1,500 naira all over 5,000, then times 100%. All right, so 0,000,005 year one, 5 year two. So our percentage profit is equal to 15 times 2, which will give us 30%. All right, so we move to, so that's our percentage profit. So to get percentage profit, you find the profit. After finding the profit, you can now move to finding your percentage profit. All right, so let's see number 3. A man buys 6 buckets at 1,000 naira and sells them for 250 naira each. Okay, this is a tricky one. So let's see. A man buys 6 buckets, 6 buckets. Okay, he buys 6 buckets for 1,000 naira. So all the 6 buckets is bought at 1,000 naira. And then let's see how he sells them. He sells them for 250 naira, 250 naira each. So that means for the 6 buckets, he sells each of them at 250 naira. So each of them. So that means what we are looking at now from the question is that we are given the cost price of 6 buckets, and then we are given the selling price of 1 bucket. Okay, let me put that down so that we can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So we can see, we can work with that. So we have the cost price of 6 buckets equal to 1,000 naira, and then we have the selling price of 1 bucket, because we are told that he sells them for 250 naira each. So the selling price of 1 bucket equal to 250 naira, 250 naira, because we are told 250 naira each. So the question we ask ourselves is, can we use the cost price of 6 buckets and the selling price of 1 bucket to compare if we've made profit or loss? That's the question we should ask ourselves. You buy 6 buckets and then you sell one. So after selling one, you start checking if you've made profit or loss. I believe that's not making sense. It's not fair enough. So if you bought 6, you have to sell the 6 to check if you've made profit or loss. So if you bought 6 buckets, then you have to wait to sell the 6 buckets. So there's a price which is at 250 naira each for selling. So you have to check to see if you have to check, you have to sell the 6 buckets first. Then you can now talk about if you've made profit or loss. So that means if we are selling 1 bucket at 250 naira, we can also look at selling of 6 buckets. So the selling price of 6 buckets at 250 naira each will be 250 naira times 6. And of course, that will give us 1,500 naira. So that's what we'll get. So we can now compare now using the cost price of 6 buckets and the selling price of 6 buckets. So let's make our comparison. The cost price is 1,000 and the selling price is 1,500 naira. So we have to calculate the percentage profit or loss. So at this point, I think we are looking at profit because the selling price is bigger than the cost price. So we have profit equal to selling price minus the cost price, and that will be equal to 1,500 naira minus 1,000 naira, which is equal to 500 naira. All right. So when we get that, we have that percentage profit is equal to we can just move to the solving. 500 all of our cost price, which is 1000 naira, times 100%. So this cancels the two zeros here, zero cancels the zero here, and then we'll be having 50%. All right, so our percentage profit is 50%. Okay, so let's move on. That's number three. So let's see number four. I believe this should be our last example before you take your activity questions. So let's see. Calculate the profit made on 12 similar phones bought at 12,500 naira each. This one now needs proportion comes in here. Even number three, we had a bit of proportion. So proportion will also come in here. Calculate the profit made on 12 similar phones bought at 12,500 naira each. Please, when you see this each, must be very careful with it. All right. So bought at 12,500 naira each. So 12 phones are sold or are bought at 12,500 naira each and sold at 28,000 for two phones. Now look at the rate of selling. So for every two phones, it's being sold at 28,000. Every two phones is being sold at 28,000. So what happens is that we need to calculate the cost of buying the 12 phones, and then we need to calculate the cost of selling the 12 phones. We need to calculate the cost of buying the 12 phones and then the selling price of the 12 phones. They have their different rates. So let's see what we have. All right, in this question, I think we are just to find the profit. We are not even to find percentage profit. So calculate the profit made. All right, so let's see. The cost price of one one phone, what we have been given, one phone is equal to 12,500. All right, and then the cost price of 12 phones now, because we have 12 similar phones, of 12 phones will be equal to um 12,500 times 12. All right, so our answer, we multiply that, then our cost price for the 12 phones will give us 150,000. That will give us 150,000. Now let's move to the selling price. Let's move to the selling price. So the selling price of not one phone now, because we are told and sold at 28,000 for two phones. So the selling price of two phones is equal to 28,000 naira. Okay, and then we are looking at the selling price of 12 phones. Please, we are not just going to multiply by 12 because this is two phones. So I recommend we take that to proportion. So two phones will give us 28,000 naira, and then 12 phones will give us, of course, x. So if we cross multiply, this is direct proportion. So we have that 2x equal to 28,000 times 12, right, times 12. That will give us 336,000. So we divide by 2 and then we divide by 2. So 2 here, 1, 2 into 3, 1 remainder 1, 2 into 13, 6 remainder 1, 2 into 16, 8, and 2 here, 0, 0, 0. Alright, so we are having the selling price of 12 phones will give us 168,000 naira. 168,000 naira. All right, so that's what we get for selling price of 12 phones. Selling price of 12 phones. So can we now proceed to check in if we have the profit or loss? Of course, the question was talking about profit, so that means the selling price will be bigger than the cost price. So let's find our profit. Our profit is equal to the selling price minus the cost price. and that will give us selling price, which is 168,000 naira minus the cost price, which is 150,000 naira. All right, so that will give us what? That will give us 18 18,000 naira. Right? So if we subtract, we're gonna get 18,000 naira. So that becomes our profit, and we are to stop our profit. We are not to find the percentage profit. So that brings us to the end of our examples on this first part of profit and loss. We'll continue in our subsequent classes. So please carefully look at the videos we've done. Look at the ones we've solved, the 4 questions we've solved. Those are the introductory parts. Though we have number 3 and number 4 has a bit of complex stuff inside, but it's something that's not that difficult. All right, so that's what we have. So we have your activity questions here, number 1 to number 7, which you have to carefully look at them, and then you solve them one after the other. So you can do well. If you have any challenge, you can drop it in the comment section. I'll be there to attend to it. All right, so thank you very much for watching, and please remember to like, subscribe, and also share these amazing lessons to others. So I'll see you in our next class.